There was a farmer who planted a field of lavender. Every morning he walked through the rows, watered the plants, added fertilizer, checked for weeds, and returned home praying that the flowers would grow and bloom soon. Day after day, it was exactly the same routine. More water, more fertilizer, more weeding, more prayer. The thing is, lavender needs very well-drained soil and a dry, sunny climate, conditions that weren't exactly what he had. But countless videos, courses, and studies promised that with the right adjustments, it was still possible to make the plants grow. He had even seen testimonials from people in situations similar to his. He believed effort was the answer to everything. If the plant wasn't growing fast enough on its own, then more study was necessary. More fertilizer, more water, more discipline on his part. Finding another plant was not an option. He had already committed himself to these ones. They seemed so beautiful, so special, he deserved to see them grow. By the end of the season, nothing, not a single flower. The small buds that had bravely begun to emerge burned and withered before they could even be noticed. He hadn't lacked effort, he hadn't lacked fertilizer, he hadn't lacked prayers, discipline, or determination. What he had lacked was an understanding of what effort was actually for. What is the difference between helping something grow and forcing it to grow? You are responsible for what you plant and how you tend to it, but you are not responsible for forcing the harvest. Maybe lavender simply wasn't the right plant for that terrain or the right job for him. Or maybe he simply needed to wait until the terrain was ready, the lavender was ready, and he was ready to harvest. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Lao Tzu was an ancient Chinese philosopher and is traditionally regarded as one of the foundational figures of Taoism, a philosophy that emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao, or the Way, through simplicity, humility, and Wu Wei. Wu Wei, it's been translated in a dozen different ways: non-action, effortless action, action without struggle. By the end of this video, I expect you'll understand exactly what it means, and more importantly, how to actually use it, in your body, in your goals, in the thing you're building right now. A tree doesn't grow because it's anxious about the sunlight it hasn't reached yet. It simply keeps doing what a tree does at the only pace actually available to it. Modern life runs on a very different rhythm. How many people do you know who measure their worth by how busy they look? When we try to rest, it feels like a moral failure, and stillness feels like wasted time. You should work hard, play hard, work while they sleep. So when you finally have time to rest, your mind treats rest like another problem to solve. Somewhere along the way, being busy became a stand-in for being valuable, even when all that busyness produces nothing at all. And I'm not trying to criticize effort. There's nothing wrong with having goals and working diligently toward them. But have you ever had the feeling that the things you force the hardest are often the very things that resist you and escape you the most? Because you want them so badly, you add more effort and pressure, more water, more fertilizer, more prayers. But then the more difficult, costly, and distant the result seems to become, and then we simply feed the cycle. Think about any endeavor, a new business, a new relationship, something you've been working hard to build. Sometimes we simply don't have the patience to let the process do its work, to let the changes happen, to let the lessons settle and knowledge accumulate. Instead, we pour more effort and energy into trying to control the entire process, trying to guarantee that we'll succeed exactly as we first imagined. And the more uncertain the outcome becomes, the harder we try to control it. Take something simple but concrete, trying to build muscle. You want the result now, the six-pack, the strength, the energy and well-being, or actually any visible proof that all the work is paying off. You look at the person next to you, making the whole thing look effortless, and you're gonna be there. So every day you increase the weight, you step on the scale every morning. You push yourself not to miss a single workout, even when your body feels like it has been run over by a truck. 2 weeks go by, nothing looks different in the mirror. Absolutely nothing has changed on the scale, but muscles you didn't even know existed are begging for help. And you've just turned something that could have been enjoyable, something meant to improve your health and well-being, into one more arena of self-punishment. You push every session past what your body is actually asking for. Fear of not getting the result mixed with overplanning every single step quietly kills spontaneity, the thing that builds most skills in the first place. You leave yourself no room to explore, to fail in small ways, to adjust, to actually enjoy the process long enough to become good at it. Wu Wei doesn't mean you shouldn't work out in this example. It doesn't mean not trying. It doesn't mean sitting around and waiting for things to happen to you. It means trying without having your attention locked entirely onto the outcome, which paradoxically may be the only way that allows you to be fully and genuinely yourself while doing it. Effort is not the opposite of Wu Wei, unnecessary force is. It's about doing things naturally without unnecessary ego or struggle, with a calm mind. It's about letting go of the intense need to force a specific outcome or control the future. In other words, don't create resistance where none is necessary. Act without striving, work without forcing. How many times does our own anxiety interfere with our actions? How often does it stop us from doing what needs to be done, from observing the whole situation, from waiting peacefully? Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air, they do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. You don't actually need to be religious to apply these ideas to your everyday life. These words feel wise because they recognize that our everyday lives are not separate from the nature of life itself. Human beings are part of nature. We are inserted into a world whose processes we cannot fully control. We don't control the natural course of things. So if we let go of the need to control the outcome and when it will happen, we get to live in alignment with our own nature. We don't know exactly when the harvest will come, but there is one thing we can control. We can choose what to plant in our lives. We can choose which seeds we want to nurture, which ones we genuinely enjoy, which ones feel meaningful to us and make sense for the life we actually want to live. Lavender's nature is to bloom in the soil and climate that are suited to it. That's what's natural for lavender, effortless, unforced. But what's natural for you? What do you do that you genuinely enjoy even while you're still bad at it? What feels natural to keep learning, to keep showing up for? Without needing to force yourself through the door every single time, that's your version of blooming, not the thing you think you should be doing. But the thing that creates so little resistance in you that getting better at it barely feels like work at all. So why don't we simply do that? Usually there's a quieter voice getting in the way: anxiety, self-sabotage, fear, an ego insisting on control it was never actually capable of holding in the first place. The ego is a big enough subject to deserve its own video. If you haven't watched the one where we go deeper into that, it's worth pairing with this one. Picture the ego as a hand gripping tightly around water. The tighter it squeezes, trying to hold and control it, the faster the water slips through its fingers, until the hand opens again completely empty. Sometimes, the more desperately you try to hold life in place, the more of it slips through your fingers. The more the self insists on directing every outcome, the more disconnected it becomes from the very thing it's trying to control. Grasping at the current doesn't move you with it, it only tires your arms. Sometimes the change we need is not in the circumstances, but in the way we relate to our choices, our failures, and the things we're trying to build. There's an old story about a woman who carried 2 clay pots to the river every day. One was perfect, the other was cracked and leaked water the entire way home. For years, the cracked pot believed it had failed. It was broken, incomplete, never doing what it had been made to do. Until one day, the woman said to it, "Look at the flowers along this path. I planted seeds on your side. Every drop of water you leaked has been watering them the entire way home. You didn't fail, you bloomed." We could call it the bloom principle. The things you can keep showing up for without constantly having to betray yourself are rarely a coincidence. They may be closer to a signal. A signal pointing toward what you were always meant to grow. the right seed is not necessarily the one that grows without effort. It's the one you're willing to tend to season after season without constantly wondering why you planted it in the first place. The lavender still blooms without asking whether it's blooming fast enough. And somewhere inside you, you may already know what is natural for you to become. The only question is, are you going to let it grow, or are you out there kneeling in the field pulling at the roots? Everything can be seen as an educational tool. Every failure, every delay, every unexpected result, every plant that refuses to grow. The indicator that you are truly satisfied with who you are is not that your life has become exactly what you wanted. It's that you are allowing your life to become what it is capable of becoming, not forcing, allowing. You choose what to plant, prepare the soil, water it, give it sunlight. And then, at some point, you have to stop digging up the seed every morning to check whether it's growing. We have to trust the process enough to let it happen, because the seed has its own timing, and you have your own season. We cannot pull on the roots and make the flower arrive sooner. Sometimes the problem was never that we weren't trying hard enough, but we were trying to make the wrong thing grow. Or maybe the right thing was already growing, and we were just too anxious to notice. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The question is not whether you can force yourself to bloom. The question is, what are you planting, and are you willing to let it grow?
If this reflection resonated with you, like and subscribe to The Arise. New reflections await.